Hello everyone. So this is an article that I've had bookmarked for weeks, and I thought I'd finally get around to covering it because it seems pretty interesting. I have no idea how this video is going to go. I think it's essentially 63 hard won lessons. I'm just going to read this opening snippet here. So this was originally a Google Doc where I gathered hard-won life lessons. Eventually I open sourced it. We're going to click on this link. It got a great response, including a shout out from Tim Ferriss. So here it is on Substack. Tim Ferriss is the 4-hour workweek guy. I think he has a podcast now as well. Who hasn't? But anyway, we're going to read it from this link, which is Nabil's website, I think. And I prefer the format here, so it's just a bit nicer. I will leave the links in the description as always. So let's get started. So a cursed fact of the world is that the most important life lessons you learn are the hardest to communicate to others. They always sound like cliches. In any case, these are a few things I've learned from experiences that I try to keep in mind. Also, just quickly, I wanted to say this is also something I read a while ago, and it's really good. So I recommend reading that Reflections on Palantir article. Anyway, so back to principles. So I've not read this, so all of these reactions are going to be sort of live, I guess you can call it. So think about what makes you imbalanced as a personality and do things where this gives you an edge. I'm not always going to be sure how to respond to these, and I might come back. Let me know your thoughts on each of these below. I would love to hear your thoughts. What makes you imbalanced? I'm a bit weird. Get a bit obsessed. I don't know where this gives me an advantage. We're going to have to come back to this one, really. So once you're okay, so going on to 2, once you are okay with people telling you no, you can ask for whatever you want. I've never been bothered about being told no. By which I mean really that I've never really been... I don't think I'm antisocial. I think I'm quite good at understanding people and like really understanding how people feel. But I feel like I've never felt awkward to be that person to like leave first at a party or just do what it is that I want to do. I don't really mean that in a selfish way. But yeah, so I think I'm quite good at this already. I do like to help people, but also I know that I won't let myself get exploited or taken advantage of or anything. So anyway, moving on. So fun is underrated. The best and most creative work comes from a root of joy and excitement. You can feel this in your body. I think this is true. There was a... What is it? Feynman, learn in the most weird way possible. I wonder if this will come up. I might have to do Google. So let's see what we've got. Goodreads. I think we're going to get the quote here. I don't want to do that. So study hard what interests you in the most... the most undisciplined, irrelevant, and original manner possible. I love Feynman. He's a great inspiration. He was a bit weird, but in a good way when it came to learning things. So this is the link for number 3. So one more thing about personal identity. Early on as a programmer, I was often in situations like you just... What's the Hacker News? This is his favorite Hacker News comment ever, or one of. One more thing about personal identity. Early on as a programmer, I was often in situations like you describe. I didn't like what I was doing. I thought the management was dumb. I just didn't think my work was very important. I think that's quite common in software jobs where you don't feel like what you're doing is very important and that other people in the world are doing more important things. I would be very depressed on projects, make slow progress, at times get into a mode where I was much of the time pretending progress simply because I could not bring myself to do the work. I think everyone's done this, and then you say you've done something but you haven't, and then you like give yourself a more stressful day the next day, having to actually do the work you said you did already. I just didn't have the spirit to do it. I know many people here know what I'm talking about. Over time I got depressed about this. Do I have a terrible work ethic? Am I really just a bad programmer, a bad person? But these questions were not so verbalized or intellectualized. They were just more like an ambient malaise and a disappointment in life where I was going. To be honest, I love my job right now, but I've had a lot of bad jobs in the software industry. So I think everyone has felt, unless you've been really lucky, I'm sure everyone's felt a bit depressed on their jobs. what I learned later on is that we do not all have a bad work ethic, and I'm not a bad person. In fact, I'm quite fierce and get a huge amount of good work done when I believe what I'm doing is important. This is fair. So it turns out for me to capture the feeling of importance, I had to work on my own projects. Yeah, I think that's quite common. And then even it took me a long time to find the ideas to really move me. But once I found this, it basically turned me into a different person. Yeah, you have to find something that you genuinely connect with. That's why I think a lot of people fail their little businesses, because I feel like a lot of people are like chasing money. Like if you're building something just to make money, I feel like you have to have a really particular mindset to actually accomplish that goal. Because I feel like I have loads of ideas, and I'm sure you do too, that I could build and I think I could make money from, but I just know that I would lose interest. And you might get 80% of the work done, but that last 20% and then trying to actually keep working on it, I just know I wouldn't be interested in doing that. So let's see. So we've only read the first 3 and we're 6 minutes in. I'm going to try and speed it up. So environment matters a lot. Move to where you flourish maximally. Put yourself in environments where you have to perform to your utmost. If you can get by being average, you probably will. Yeah, this is like a true sort of in anything. So like if you want to get good at sport, the best way to get good is to surround yourself with people that are better than you, and then you'll like adapt to that. And I think it's true in pretty much anything. So for example, I used to play a lot of football, but when I was 11, I was playing with like 15, 16-year-olds, and I just found that a lot more. I found I learned a lot more there than playing with other 10, 11-year-olds. Later, you'll be nostalgic for right now. Always the case. Nostalgia, like, you're in the good times now. Unless you're not, but do things fast. Things don't actually take much time. It's measured by a stopwatch. Resistance procrastination does. This resonates with me so much. Like, I know you can get things done. It's the procrastination that kills you. And this was like Facebook's whole philosophy early on, like move fast and break things. I believe in that too, to an extent. Just sort of do things and then fix them, do them, and you kind of have that. As long as you have like feedback loops, you can move fast. So if no urgency exists, impose some. I don't think I'm very good at this. I feel like I need. If it's made up urgency, I don't think I stick to it. But it's a good idea. If you can force yourself to be like, I need to get this done by midnight, then maybe you'll do it. Moving fast, but it's easier when you've got real deadlines, i.e. other people are dependent on you. I think that's when it works best for me. When it's actual real other people dependent on me, I can get things done. Moving fast forces you to strip things down to the bare bones. I always think this is good. This is why I always say, like, I'm not... maybe I shouldn't say this out loud, but I've never really considered myself like the best engineer in the world, but I think I can get things done fast. And that's what I like doing. If you ask me to build you something, I think I can build you a prototype that works quite well, really quickly. But will I be sure that it's like a technical masterpiece? Absolutely not. Wealth can be created. There's not a fixed amount of it in the world. Somebody doing well doesn't always have to come at the expense of someone else. It's basically saying it's not a zero-sum game. I think some things are. But no, I mean, fundamentally this is true. You doing well doesn't mean someone else is doing bad. And content creation, I think, is actually one of the best examples of this. Of course, if you're like a person who watches like a single streamer like 10 hours a day, then you are almost zero-sum in that case, if you're not watching anyone else. But for the most part, if I do a 10-minute video and someone else does a 10-minute video, both those people are getting the views and engagement or whatever. So it's not zero-sum in that sense. Wealth can be created. That was a very basic example. But the point being is that just because someone else is doing well doesn't mean that you can't do well. This is Paul Graham. I think he's got some really good articles from what I've heard. I'm not gonna read that right now, but maybe I'll tell you what. I've got memberships now, and in the memberships there's sometimes stuff I don't want to do videos on, but I'll put it on the community tab, and I'll put that there probably. So I'm not hiding real proper content, I guess. So, the world is a museum of passion projects. As you become an adult, you realize that things around you weren't just always there. People made them happen. But only recently have I started to internalize how much tenacity everything requires. That's so true. Like, that's what I have literal so much. Even I covered the most recent article, and there were some comments, people saying, "Oh, I don't think it was a very good article," which is like fair enough. But I kind of respect anyone who creates anything because they did it. They created a thing, and I think that's important. I think people who create things are great. So doing as much as you can every day is a form of life extension. I guess that makes sense. If you pack in more in a day, I guess you could give yourself an interesting challenge of, like, what are you going to do this week, and how many of those things could you actually do in a day? It might be fun. Always be high integrity. Even when it costs you, the shortcuts aren't worth it. I'd consider myself high integrity. Does everyone consider themselves high integrity? I think this point is a bit vague in the sense I don't know what it's referring to. Is it talking to your moral integrity? It's talking about shortcuts. Figure out what your primary focus is and make progress on that every day. First thing in the morning, no exceptions. Days with zero output are the killers. Tyler Cohen. Who's Tyler Cohen? It's a name that rings a bell. Marginal Revolution? Maybe I don't know who this person is. Let's see. Fair enough. I don't think I do actually know what it is. Probably just the name Cohen. Yeah, actually, I'm very much of the opinion that the hardest thing in life, and this isn't like, it's not some revelation. I think one of the hardest things in life is actually figuring out what it is that you want to focus on. I think that's what most people struggle with. And I think to a certain extent, once you figure out what it is you want to do, getting there is, I don't want to say easy or trivial. I think that's not right, but maybe simple. Like, the difference between simple and easy is, like, simple is you know exactly what the goal is, so it's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. You still need to put in the work. So pay attention to your production, consumption, balance. If you're only consuming and not producing, fix that. I agree. And consuming and producing can be anything, I think. For me, I like to make sure I read, so I'm actually thinking. Whereas I think videos almost happen too quickly sometimes. So although I love watching like videos on YouTube, and I do that quite a lot, I try to not do it too much. So I'm actually also doing stuff that is really intellectually stimulating. And I think that counts. For me, that counts as producing. Whether you're writing a bit of code, cooking something nice, I think that's all producing. So, yeah, make sure you do things, not just consume things. You don't do anyone any favors by lurking. Put yourself out there. I guess that's what I'm technically doing right now. And it is quite scary, because, I don't think I'm like some genius, so a lot of the things I say will probably be stupid. But, I'm just sharing stuff that I find interesting. Put yourself out there. Although on Reddit I just lurk. I can't be bothered to interact with people on Reddit. If you don't get a classic book or movie, 90% of the time it's your fault. Understand. It might just not be the right time for you to appreciate that thing. That's fair. That's an interesting way of looking at it, actually. Obviously, as you age, your tastes do change, or things you didn't appreciate before you appreciate. So, yeah, maybe go back to a classic and try again. Maybe that's good advice for me. Yeah. If you find yourself dreading Mondays, quit. I don't dread Mondays. I've actually always liked Mondays. Mondays are good. For me, it's like back to routine. I kind of like being in my routine. So I don't hate Mondays, because I feel like it's the weekends that are out of routine rather than the weekdays. Lean into the good kind of fear. I think this is always good advice, but people, unless you have the energy, it's quite natural to avoid discomfort, fear. Pick some kind of fitness athletic activity to get addicted to, and get addicted to it for its own sake. For me, this is running. I hate running. I love football though, so play football. Or soccer, if you're American. I think I'm too slim for American football. I'm like quite slim and 6'4". I learn how to meditate, even if you don't end up doing it regularly. I wish I meditated more. This again comes back to like thinking and having a clear mind. I think really helps me. So yeah, the techniques are useful. 99% of books, resources on this are quite bad. I recommend looking at Rob Berbier's talks and jhana practice as the way in. So where are we at? We're up to 20 and we're like 15 minutes in. I really got to speed up. This is going to be a really long video. But you know. So no matter how bad things seem, everything passes. True. You are probably too risk averse. Write out the worst things that can happen. Realize they're not that bad. Then take the leap. I don't think I'm too risk. I don't mind risk because I think I have a very low threshold for what I need. I don't really buy a lot of things. I've always got more out of sort of thinking, and yeah, I just don't buy a lot of things or anything like that. I'm quite happy, so I'm not too. I don't mind risk. Do a review of your year every year, write it out, figure out what was. I think writing in general, by the way, I don't do it. I'm such a hypocrite, but I think that's just being human. Like knowing what's good and doing it are two different things. I find writing is amazing. Again, clarity of thought, and it's a skill, you know. So keeps your brain sharp. I do genuinely recommend writing to anyone, even if I don't always do it myself. Doing things is energizing. Wasting time is depressing. You don't need that much rest. I don't. Yeah, wasting time for me is the only thing that I truly find depressing and time wasting is scrolling through my phone. I wish I had I wish I could just delete Reddit, but I can't. I just like going on it sometimes when I'm bored. But it's the only thing that I'm like, ugh, I wish I just closed this damn app. Doing things is energizing. This is true. Being able to travel is, but I don't have like TikTok and stuff because I just know that would rot my brain. And I don't like that feeling. I think the biggest thing for me is I don't like that feeling of like when your mind is cloudy and you don't feel like you can focus. That's how I would describe it. That is my least favorite feeling, when I don't feel focused. And it does happen. And I think it gets worse when I watch loads of videos, or especially something like TikTok, short attention span stuff. I think is the worst for absolutely melting my brain. So I'm quite good at avoiding stuff like that. Being able to travel is one of the key ways the modern world is better than the old world. Learn to travel well. Yeah, I feel like we would all like to travel more. Form opinions on things and then find the strongest critique of those opinions. Repeat. Yeah, this is the other thing, you know, when I'm doing stuff live like this, what you have to realize is, for most things, to actually have a proper opinion on it, you have to really think about it. And I think I can't do that on the spot. I try to, but I really need to think about something. Like if you asked me a question, I'd probably really take a long time to think about it. If you really can't disprove something, it has a chance of being right. I guess that's true. Memorize a few old poems or texts that mean a lot to you. Do you know what? I just never liked poetry. I like rap, ironically. Is rap just poetry to a beat? Maybe slam poetry. I think I've seen some of that. I guess that's quite fun. But you know, like I'm talking English literature. I never liked it. English language poetry was okay. English literature, just disliked. I don't like things that are all like massively up to interpretation. I just find I can't do anything with that. Personally, struggle with that. So at some point in your life, work on a startup, or at least a thing driven by a small group. I always wish I had friends who wanted to do that, but I never had anyone who was that interested in my personal life who wanted to sort of work on something together. So I've built a lot of things myself, but it's not the same. It's not the same vibe, same energy. I'd be careful about rationalizing something that does not feel right. It's fair. Trust your gut. Know your triggers, what makes you the worst version of yourself. Yeah, I think this, talking of triggers, I feel like I was talking about this a minute ago with not feeling like I'm focused. That's a trigger for me. That makes me feel really depressed. I don't mind wasting time. I don't mind sitting there. As long as my mind feels sharp and focused, I'm okay. So that's definitely, because I get really depressed if I've watched like too much TV or too many videos and I don't feel sharp. Figure out what creates enduring value. A non-exclusive list, great cultural artifacts such as books, great companies, institutions. Don't let anyone make you feel small. Yeah, good advice, I guess. Working with people you really respect and are secretly worried are much better than you will figure out how dumb you are is the best. This kind of goes back to what we said earlier, just trying to surround yourself with... I don't really like this in terms of like social climbing. I don't think you should do that. And I don't think this is what this is talking about. It's just like, if you're actually trying to get better at something and that's your goal, you know, we talked earlier about what's actually your goal. You're not going to get better unless you're around people that are better than you. To an extent. Of course you can get better by yourself. Like, that's no doubt. But, you know, you'll probably hit a wall at some point. So aim for Chartres, Christopher Alexander, I don't know who that is. When doing something, aim for the best there ever was at it. This compensates for your natural bias, which is to do something mediocre. I think you see this a lot with tech CEOs. They're always talking about going to do the best. Like even Elon the other day, it's like, oh, Grok's going to be the best AI. I don't think he actually believes that. Or Tesla's the best electric car, or it's the best, like the best of it. But whenever he sets out for anything, it's the best version of that. And while he doesn't always achieve those goals, it's that sort of, I think he's forcing that sort of mindset and agenda. And the same for Sam Altman, you know, he's doing it as well with OpenAI. You know, they're talking about AGI, and I think some of it is hyperbolic, but it's more, I think, a mental thing for them. Yeah. Aim for Chartres. So I don't know what this links to. It's going to be another. This is too long. We won't read that just yet. Send more cold emails. People respond. Assume everyone's your friend. I'm probably not going to do that, but you know, it's probably good advice. I mean, again, if you know what you want, you know, if you want a job at, I don't know, if you want to achieve something, then email people who know stuff about that. I do think it's that most people are like being comfortable, and most people don't really have any sort of grandiose goals. If you did, you could probably achieve them. Like, just say out loud what you want to do and commit to that 100% for the next 5 years or 10 years, and you probably will achieve, or you'll get really close to your goal, or much closer than you would have if you didn't have a plan. So there's some people who, after you talk to them, you feel more energized and you want to conquer the world or climb a mountain or something. They're rare, but they exist. Go find them and make friends with them. Yeah, people like this are great. But also, don't get addicted to people like this, because then you're like, I don't know, get addicted to like a career coach who just, I don't know, I guess if you've got the money, it's fine. Move to where the action is. Again, I don't do this, but this is so true. Location. Like, if you lived in Silicon Valley in like the 2000s, your life would probably be very, very different. You'd be surrounded by people who are building internet companies, and you'd probably just be involved in that. Which is why, like, I feel like a lot of your life just comes down to where you're born, probably, which is a sort of sad reality. Of course, you have control over things, but yeah. I mean, the good thing with the internet is that I feel like it's reduced this effect massively. We have so much access. We have access to like all information. But yeah, even like early 2000s, like or any time period. I think Bill Gates as well. Did Bill Gates go to a school, one of the only secondary schools, I think, or elementary schools, I don't know the exact term, sorry, that had a computer room. So again, they were in a place where there was action, or where they could actually act. So status is fake and transient. I've never cared about status. Just focus on substance and doing valuable work. Talk about it in public. I don't actually, ironically, although I have a YouTube channel, I don't really like attention. I just like doing it. Does that make sense? Because that's what I'm like. I don't care about status. I don't care. I guess I care what people think about me in the sense that I don't want people to think I'm awful or anything. But other than that, I don't too much care. I'm happy to come across as dumb. Ask dumb questions. Feynman always asked dumb questions. He actually spoke about this, that he would sometimes ask, he'd be in a room full of geniuses, you know, because of the nature of his work, and he would ask a handful of seemingly stupid questions or dumb questions to everyone else, questions they all knew the answers to, but then he wasn't afraid to ask those dumb questions because he needed those answered for his own brain, and then he would sometimes immediately come up with a solution or a new way of looking at the problem. And I think he was a wizard like that, because I think what was great about Feynman, he was obviously a genius, but I don't think he thought he was a genius, so he worked incredibly hard at understanding whatever it was he was interested in. He would work really hard every day to understand that from as many angles as possible, and sometimes so he could almost come across as clever. So anyway, obviously I'm a Feynman fanboy. The people who matter to you won't judge you for it, and you'll learn things as a result. Honestly, this is something I think I'm really good at work. If I don't know something, I won't waste. I think one of the worst things you can do, and I think what juniors do, is they waste time because they feel awkward. While I try to see that in people, you know, when I see a junior struggling, I will reach out to them before they reach out to me, because I know what it's like. But yeah, I think I would definitely always say just ask a question, because people like to help, firstly, and yeah, I don't really think there are that many stupid questions. Although I did have a professor at uni, he was hilarious. He was this Chinese guy, I think, and he said I did electrical engineering, and he would say there's no stupid questions, ask a question, and then sometimes someone would ask a question, and he would just laugh. And it sounds bad, but he was just funny. He was really clever, and oh dear, what a G. Don't ever index on trends, just figure out your first... Again, I don't like trends at all. Don't trend hop. I mean, you do you, but the reality is if you're not interested in the trend, you're just going to get burnt out or lose, because nothing is like a short term. You're not going to achieve anything in the short term, really, unless you somehow get lucky and something goes viral. But it's like winning the lottery. There is some wisdom in fake it till you make it. I agree. Yeah, fake it till you make it. Sort of. What can I think of here? I think fake it till you make it is just like tech company. You know, like when you start a company, you are faking it. You don't know what you're doing, and as you run into problems, you overcome those problems. So I think that's fake it till you make it. Or anything, just like when you get a job, you're faking it till you make it, till you understand everything. Fake it till you make it really is just realizing you don't know what it is you know, and then trying to educate yourself as much as possible. Don't slow down as you get older, speed up. Lean into changes, be curious about new things. Yeah, I see a lot of people don't like change, and I don't like change in my routine that much. Like, when things change too much, I kind of lose my focus. But I'm very open to change, like external change. That doesn't bother me too much. You kind of see it with games. I'm a big Civ fan, and you had a lot of people who played Civ 5, and they just thought Civ 6 sucked for whatever reason, so they didn't get it, or just complained about it all the time. And now the same thing's happened with Civ 7. Now, don't get me wrong, I was playing Civ 7 before this video, actually, this morning, and it's got loads of bugs, but it's a different game, just like, adapt. Maybe this was a bad example, but it was just in my mind that, just things change. Lean into it. Enjoy it. Enjoy it for what it is. Be specific. Smart. Remember that from school. What is this? Exercise prior. Just be specific again. What is meant by the word red? It's a colour. What's a colour? Why, it's a quality things have. What's a quality? What is meant by the word red? Well, the next time you see some car stopped at an intersection, look at the traffic. Okay, yeah. This looks like a fun article. Maybe I'll read it, but I feel like it's beside the point. Understand power laws. Outlier math rules all. I think I've read Outlier. Outlier is a book. Power laws is just that. Isn't it the 80% thing? It's actually how a lot of investment work as well. Like if you invest in 10 companies, if you're rich and you can afford to give 10 startup companies, or let's say you're rich enough, you're like a national fund, let's say, of a country, and you're investing in every tech company in America, and you give them all $10 million dollars or whatever, and the one that's successful, or the two that are successful, will probably make more money than all of the money you lost on investing in all the other companies. I think that's sort of power laws. I may have explained that a bit poorly, but I think that's sort of it. Stop asking for approval and permission from others. School and work trains people to have this mindset. Instead, figure out what you want to do and plant this as happening flag. I agree with that. Just do what you want to do. Werner Herzog to Errol Morris. Sorry, I read like a German name and then my brain shifted into German, which is why it sounded weird there. Merrill Morris. When it comes to filmmaking, money isn't important. The intensity of your wishes and faith alone are the deciding factors. But anyway, I'm just going to do this one video because I found that part 2 never does well of any video. So I don't like doing a part 2. So don't network, make friends. I agree with this. I hate this idea of, have you seen the subreddit LinkedIn lunatics? Some people are just crazy. I don't like this. I don't like fakeness, and I don't think anyone does anymore. So people like authenticity, and I think deep down they always have. They don't like this. Networking to me is social climbing. It's being fake. That's not me. I just don't care about that. Anyway, I went on a rant there. Writing online is great for bringing interesting people your way. Having a wide network of friends really makes a difference to the opportunities you get and how easy it is to launch your projects. Figure out what gives you new ideas. Figure out what gives you new ideas and make sure you incorporate that into your routine. For me, this is talking to people, tweeting, writing in my notebook, long conversations with friends, especially late at night. Yeah, I mean, at uni, I used to love getting I'm really sensitive to caffeine. I'd get a latte from, I don't know, like Starbucks or Costa or something, and that would have me up to 2 a.m. talking about tech with my friend or startup ideas. For other people, this is showering. Yeah, showering is a big one for me. I like to think in the shower. Don't like baths. I hate baths. Long walks. Walking is good for my mind as well. These are all things. When I get down bad, I start going on walks again. Helps get me back on track. I think the good thing is to just listen to your body. Make sure you harvest these ideas. To be honest, you can actually think of generating ideas as a muscle. And actually, if you just sit down now for 10 minutes and just jot down any idea that comes to your mind, but don't even care if it's a good idea. Just write it down, and you'll get better at making ideas. That's the thing. Whatever it is you do, if you do it often, you'll get better at it. So I used to like playing that. I'd just try and generate ideas, and I'd start off with ones I knew were bad, but it doesn't matter because you're just it's the process that matters, not the ideas. When writing, separate the creator and the editor. The creator just writes and doesn't worry about quality. The goal is words on the page. Later you can be the editor and shape it into something good. Yeah, this is sort of my style with, not that I do a lot of writing. Again, I don't care about the quality initially. It takes too much time. If you want a perfectly crafted sentence, that might take you half an hour if you let yourself. Be honest about whether something is learning or entertainment. Real learning is extremely hard and effortful. Podcasts, Atlantic articles, pop science books, anything that's a bit too digestible is more entertainment. Yeah, which is why when you upload YouTube videos, you could do categories like education, but I always put mine as entertainment because although people might learn stuff, I think my videos are more entertainment than anything. That's what I intend them to be. Hopefully you find them interesting though. I mean, if you're still here, it's pretty impressive because it's been 34 minutes. I imagine that almost no one is here anymore. Any given bet you take is likely to fail. Success is making lots of bets and trying as hard as possible at each of them. Success is higher the more bets you take and the better you execute per bet. This is also why fast cycle time is so important. Rather than first articulate this with me, I'll tell you what, all of these things I've opened, I'll leave in the, I don't have LinkedIn anymore, in the description. I'll try to, if I remember. I think I'm writing. Yeah, on one hand I think this is true, but I don't like people who pivot too quickly. But I do think if you want to build something that's useful for people, the best thing to do is to speak to people. And then I guess you can pivot based on that. But I think too many developers like me included want to just like build something and let the people come. You know, build something and the people come, but really, I think the best way to actually build something is to speak to someone who needs something and then talk to them. So think in writing, write Google Docs, score in notebooks. I agree with this. I mean, I try to articulate in my head, which I think is sort of the same to a certain degree. I try to articulate well what I'm trying to think about. Not what I'm doing like live like this, but just like off camera. And I think this is the same sort of thing. I think when you force yourself to articulate your thoughts, it really helps you really see whether you actually understand something. This extends working memory arbitrarily and allows your thoughts to compound on each other. This is another thing. The reason I love reading at the moment so much as well is because I try to like, I'm really slow at reading books because I like to ponder like literally every sentence I read and sort of connect it to different thoughts and sort of imagine it. I don't know if you guys are the same, but I do, yeah, I enjoy that a lot. Sort of a hobby. Once in a while, put away all concepts you read about online and reason up from the base and your experience, what you've seen and done. What are some of the best decisions you've made, the worst, why can you apply those lessons now? 80% utilitarian, 15% deontologist, 5% virtue ethics. I don't know what this is. Deontologist. Immoral philosophy. Let's do define and do Google. Someone who follows deontologist ethics, a moral theory that focuses on duty and moral obligation. They believe some actions are right or wrong in themselves, regardless of the consequence. Duty. Fair enough. Most intelligent people want status, prestige, wealth, and the like, even the ones who claim not to. Genius is a distinct category to intelligence, and geniuses are motivated entirely by different things and are socially strange, and often selfish people. Ayn Rand is a bad writer, but is one of the very few people who cropped this and made it explicit. I think I would be lying if I said I don't care about status, I don't care about prestige. I would say I care about wealth, because I think while I really like my job and I like coding, I think fundamentally I would be lying if I said that if I was wealthy, like really wealthy, that I would be doing it. I'd probably just be focusing on my own project. So if I had enough wealth to be independent, I'd probably just be independent, if that makes sense, and try and work on my own things. Scrolling and reading too much drowns out your inner voice. Yes, this is what I'm talking about. When you're reading, I love my inner voice. That's really important to me when I'm reading books. If you're just reading, you're not processing, in my opinion. I like to process. Again, it's more be very suspicious of a priori arguments on empirical matters. AI will certainly kill everyone. They are usually wrong, no matter how convincing reality is. Endlessly surprising. I try to be nuanced on this channel. There's a lot of alpha in being willing to do menial work, take notes, send out agendas, order pizza manually, inspect raw data, whatever. Beware of over-delegation and being too far from the details. This sort of goes back to AI, like, making you dumber. I think that LLMs, I love LLMs, by the way, but I think they are like the engineering equivalent of TikTok. They allow you to not have to think as much, but because you're not having to think as much, arguably you become worse at thinking. Now, I think there's still a skill in communicating with LLMs properly, but I do think I've seen people talk about this on Reddit, that they just think that LLMs or AI, whatever you want to call it, is making them dumb. One key to effective negotiation is to have multiple options and be okay with it not working out. Yeah, I've been going through the process of trying to buy a house recently, and maybe it's not quite related to this, but you just have to accept that things might not work out. You have to, essentially, when you're negotiating, you have to be happy with the risks of not getting that thing. It's good to have multiple options. Don't get too attached to a single option. So yeah, I think that sort of works there. Even if you really need the thing, it's never your only choice. Yeah, I fully agree with this. And in fact, limitations are fun. It's much more fun to build a program with a limitation than no limitations. For example, if I told you to build a web app, but you're not allowed to use a framework, I'm like, oh, that's a challenge. But it might be more fun to you because it's a constraint. Constraints are fun. I'm going to add that. 64. Constraints are fun. 61. Luck isn't a constant. It increases with surface area. Absolutely. Be in the right places. Have a lot of conversations. Everyone I know that is really successful has gotten really lucky. But all of them have worked extremely hard. It's not a one or the other. I don't like people who think, oh, this person's just got lucky. Because they still had to work hard. And I think true success is a lot of hard work and a lot of luck. Um, so yeah. And the more things you do, the more you expose yourself, and the better you get, the more lucky you will get, probably. It's not constant. It's not guaranteed. Luck is never guaranteed. The most valuable feedback usually hurts a lot. Is that true? I guess this could be true because it might be that if the feedback hurts, it's like challenging. It hurts because it's fundamentally something you must believe. So if it's valuable feedback, stuff that you really don't know, then it will go against your current values or knowledge, in which case it might hurt. That doesn't mean it has to be hurtful. I think something is like building a again very very niche, but like if you're building a web app and it's like you've wasted loads of time on it because you've approached it wrong. It's like someone's saying, "Does anyone actually want this?" That might be a hurtful feedback. Like, have you actually asked anyone if they actually want to use this thing? If you want to think originally and differently, seek uncorrelated inputs, read minor work, order things. Bill Gates speaks about this quite often, actually. When he goes on his reading trips, he tends to read 10 books, or whatever the number is, multiple books at least at the same time, rather than reading through one at a time. That way you can sort of cross-pollinate your ideas. I think that's really good. I read like that too. I'm reading. And it's not even because I'm trying to be like that. It's just how I actually like the process of thinking about what I'm reading anyway. So the book is almost less important to me because I can sort of get sort of the enjoyment out of any piece of text I read. So I like to read multiple things. But anyway, if you're still here, truly impressive. Hopefully that wasn't too boring. And yeah, let me know your thoughts on all of these below. And thanks for watching. Become a member.